welcome back to the channel. Going to be working on the Civic today. So in the last time I worked on the Civic, I replaced the engine with a D16. We didn't get to do any maintenance stuff on it, and it's currently burning a lot of oil. So the plan for today's video is fix the leaking oil or the oil burning, which is going to be replacing the piston rings and the valve stem seals. While we're at it, we're also going to be replacing the timing belt and water pump. So we got all the parts here. We got the head gasket, valve stem seals all in here, and all the other stuff that we need. And then we also have the piston rings, new intake gasket, which is a thermal gasket this time. And on here we have the timing belt, water pump. We have new spark plugs, water pump. That's the tensioner pulley. So we got a whole all new stuff that's going to be putting on the engine. So hopefully now it shouldn't leak anymore or burn any more oil. For now, I'm going to be just doing that. So yeah, just going to go ahead, jack it up, and start taking the head off. So we've got the head off, and we've got it all on the table. We still need to take the valves out, but as you can see on the block, you can see where the oil was. There's a lot of oil, so it's all wet. These rings are wet with oil, so they were leaking, and you don't know if you can see, but there's no like crosshatch left, so it's all pretty wore. So I'm gonna have to crosshatch it myself, and then clean up the pistons, put in the new rings, clean up the head as well, and then put it all back together with new piston rings, and also then new valve stem seals. After all that, we shouldn't be leaking anymore or burning any more oil. I'm just going to go ahead and start dismantling it, and then also take out the piston rings so I can clean them up and put in the new piston rings. We got the engine all dismantled now. We've got the pistons out in order to replace the piston rings, and we've got the head, and we've removed all the valve stem seals, all the valves, the springs and retainers, so we can get to the valves and pull the valves out. There is a lot of carbon build-up here, so I'm gonna try and clean that off. And then also the valves, the exhaust valves aren't seated, or they are seated. The valves have some pitting, so they might not be seated completely. Gonna try and get rid of all the carbon build-up from the head and the valves, so we can clean them up, and also clean up the piston rings. But for the head, we're going to try and use the sandblasting cabinet. We're going to try the sodium bicarbonate on it, blast that onto it, and that should remove all the carbon deposits without damaging the head or put pit in the head. So it should only remove the carbon. got everything cleaned up, got the head cleaned up, the valves and the pistons. They're all ready to be assembled. We put the new piston rings in, seat the valves, and then we can put everything back together. But here is how they are looking. So we got the head all cleaned up. We got most of the carbon out of it, and we've also on each of the ports we got most of the carbon out of there as well, and out of the intake side we got it all out. And it's also, so we just did vapor blasting with that with the sodium carbonate, and we've got the valves cleaned up. The exhaust ones still have a bit of carbon on, but it's not that big of a deal, I guess. So they're all cleaned up. The intake ones are perfect, and for the pistons as well, we also cleaned them up and made sure these holes here, none of them were blocked, which is the oil passages. So they're all ready to put the new rings on and clock them and put them back onto the block, and then we can go put the valves in and seat the valves and bolt everything back up. For the blasting, I ended up using the sanding cabinet with the jet wash with the vapor blasting attachment, and we just put sodium carbonate in it, and that basically just cleaned off the head without damaging the surface. So we didn't want to damage any of this, because this is all smooth and perfect for the head gasket, and also it's much easier to clean. You're not worried about getting grit stuck into the head, because the sodium just dissolves in the water, so there's no cleaning up of the head. So in the next video I'll just be basically putting it all back together and hopefully have the car running. So that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.